For today's video, I'm going to be spreading awareness about a serious issue: parental alienation. It's when one parent suddenly gets cast as the villain in their own child's life, often without even realizing it. And I thought I would do that in my easy-to-use step-by-step guide, Parental Alienation, or how to train your kid to think their father, or mother, is a supervillain, but not in a good way. Parental alienation. The phrase alone sounds like something out of a dystopian sci-fi movie. Like a scene where one parent gives their child a memory wipe of all the good things you ever did. In reality though, it's less about sci-fi drama and more about subtle, or not so subtle, manipulation. Manipulation that turns one parent into the villain of the family soap opera. And let's be honest, if you're going to be labeled a supervillain, you should at least have a cape, a catchy theme song, and a cool layer. Not just passive-aggressive texts and awkward moments at soccer games. Parental alienation is a weird mix of psychology, hurt feelings, and a kid suddenly giving you the side eye because apparently you're now the reason their iPad charger went missing. Spoiler alert, it wasn't you. It was the couch cushions. But when you've been cast as the bad guy in this family saga, logic tends to fly out the window faster than your chances of getting invited to their birthday party. Let's try to break this down a bit. How does one even get alienated from their own child? And why does it always feel like you're starring in a never-ending episode of Survivor Family Edition? Step 1. The seeds of alienation. AKA, did you know your dad is the worst? The process usually begins innocently enough. The alienating parent doesn't just come out and say, "Hey son, I'm going to rewrite your brain so you see your father as a mix between Darth Vader and an unpaid Uber driver." No, they're sneakier. It starts with subtle comments like, "Oh, your dad didn't text back right away. That's just how he is. Always busy." Before you know it, the low-vibing resonance starts to build up, and the kids start adding up scenario after scenario. Mom says dad can't even pack a Lunchable correctly. What else is he messing up? Suddenly, forgetting to pack a juice box becomes the first step towards becoming the Grinch who stole their childhood. Step 2. Escalation. AKA, how to build a supervillain in 6 easy steps. As time goes on, the alienating parent ramps up their game. They're no longer just pointing out flaws. They're subtly, or not so subtly, convincing the child that you're plotting to ruin their life. You say no to staying up past bedtime. You must be the fun police. You ask them to clean their room. Clearly you have no respect for their creative chaos. You want them to finish their vegetables? Or in my case, their pork. Monster? Suddenly, you're not just enforcing normal parenting rules. You're the evil overlord enforcing a strict bedtime regime with an iron fist. And before you know it, you've gone from being dad to Lord no TV past 8 p.m. It's like a superhero origin story. Only instead of gaining superpowers, you just lose all credibility. Step 3. The triangulation. Or, whose side are you on? At this point, the alienating parent begins to turn family time into something resembling a competitive sport. It's not enough to simply be a parent anymore. You're now part of a tug-of-war game where the child is the rope. And every little thing you do or didn't do becomes a point in the other parent's favor. You missed a school event because of work? Strike 1. You made them eat broccoli instead of pizza? Strike 2. The other parent takes them on a surprise trip to an amusement park complete with cotton candy, roller coasters, and no curfews. Well, that's game over. You're out here trying to enforce healthy boundaries and nutritious meals, and they're out there playing the role of cool parent like it's their full-time job. Step 4. The cold shoulder, AKA, remember when we used to hang out? Eventually, all the subtle manipulation starts to take effect. Your child, once your little sidekick, is now giving you the cold shoulder, acting like you're a distant relative who accidentally crashed their sleepover. They start resenting you for rules you never changed, and for mistakes you didn't actually make. Suddenly, the kid who used to beg for piggyback rides now treats you like a stranger on the subway. Awkward eye contact, quick nod, and moving on. You ask, "How was school?" And they reply with a shrug that could rival Mount Everest in coldness. You try to set up fun weekend plans, but they'd rather hang out with literally anyone else at this point. You're wondering when you went from being their hero to becoming the villain in their very own coming-of-age drama. Step 5. Embracing your role as the villain, but with a twist. Here's where things get tricky. Fighting against this supervillain narrative is like trying to escape quicksand. The more you struggle, the deeper you sink. The harder you try to explain, no, you're not plotting their misery, the more you seem guilty of something. The key here? Lean into it. Embrace the fact that you've been cast as the villain, but in your own awesome way. If they're going to think you're the bad guy, at least be the bad guy with style. Throw in some dad jokes, or mom quips like, "I may be the villain, but at least I pack a mean PB&J." Make them see that you're not the boring, no-fun parent. You're the cool villain who doesn't need roller coasters to be awesome. My personal favorite, Step 6. The inevitable comeback, because every villain has one. Here's the secret no one tells you. kids grow up, and they eventually realize what's going on. They start piecing things together properly, like detectives in a true crime documentary. They'll figure out that the cool parent isn't always as perfect as they seemed, and the bad parent wasn't actually so bad after all. And when that moment comes, you'll get your comeback story. You'll go from being the villain to being the misunderstood anti-hero, one who just wanted what was best all along. Sure, it took a while for them to see it, but like all great superhero sagas, redemption was always part of the plan. In conclusion, Parental Alienation is like being cast in a role you never auditioned for, complete with drama, misunderstandings, and plot twists you didn't see coming. But if you can hang in there, keep being the parent your kid needs, please, even if they don't realize it yet. And maybe throw in a few villain-themed dad jokes for good measure. You'll eventually come out the other side. After all, every good villain deserves a redemption arc.